Well, let's start off then with, I'm going to change the order actually, and we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance first. So I'm going to stand and we'll pledge to the flag. Call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to
the republic
for which
it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so the first thing on our agenda tonight is a public hearing, and the public hearing is about taking money out of the championship fund, just a little bit over $600, I believe. I don't know if we can see that up there on the screen, but it's for 20 plaques for the basketball players. The girls team won the Division III championship this year. And so, and also for a banner to be hung in the Pratt Auditorium. This is something that we typically do. This is the fund we use when our teams do win championships. And so certainly what we want to do is find out if there's any public input on this before making any decisions. So I'll open this up to the public for comment.
So yeah, anybody who's a member of the public that wishes to speak, if you're logged in on your computer, there should be an option under participants to raise your hand, and you're more than welcome to do that. If you're calling in from a phone, I don't believe we have anybody, but it is *9 in order to do that. So I guess we can give people a few moments to do that. You can also reach out through the chat feature, which I have open. I'm more than happy to use that to either open people to speak or to just read your comment for you.
Okay. Given that we don't seem to have any comment regarding this right now, I'd like to entertain a motion to allow us to withdraw or to use the championship fund in the way that it is spelled out right here for the purpose of recognizing the Conant, the 2019-20 Conant girls basketball team for their win in the the whole season, the undefeated season that they had.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you know the balance in the fund?
I don't have the balance in the fund with me right now. If Carrie gets on, she might have that information.
Is this fund?
I think it's healthy.
Okay. And this fund it's funded through donations, or do you know the basis of the fund?
I don't know a lot about the championship fund and its origins and how it's constructed. I think that it's similar to some of the others where it builds interest. But again, Carrie might have that information.
Well, if it weren't a heavily, if it weren't a well-funded fund, I was going to suggest that, well, first of all, I'm all in favor of recognizing the team. I think it's terrific.
Sure.
If it was not a well-endowed fund, I was going to recommend that perhaps we use current operating budget funds, given our financial status this year. But
right.
If we don't know, then I guess I'm fine with using championship fund.
Any other comments? And that was Laurel for those who are joining us.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Well, then I make a motion that we
Sure.
authorize expenditure from the championship fund for the purposes stated for testimony given.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Laurel and we have a second by Heidi. All in favor of utilizing this fund for this purpose? Signal by saying aye, but I'll have to roll call, don't I? So Marcia?
Aye.
Okay, Alicia,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
Laurel,
Aye.
Charlie.
Aye.
Okay, so it passes 7-0-0.
Is Patty with us?
She just chatted. She just sent a chat in.
Aye,
Saying
aye.
aye.
Patty also. Patty is aye. That's right. So it was 6-0-0. Now it's 7-0-0. There we go. Thank you, Patty. I think Patty's muted.
Yeah,
She was having some trouble.
Okay.
I'm working on trying to get her on.
All right. Thank you.
Yay!
Okay, good. And so Patty, just for the roll call vote. do you
Aye.
vote? Aye. Okay. 7-0-0. Good. All right. So the next on the agenda. We did an pleasant, okay, school board organization 2020, 2021. So this we had pushed off till this board meeting before because we were entering into the early stages of remote learning. And so what I would need to do is I would need to ask for a motion for, or a nomination for school board chair. So is there a nomination for school board chair?
This is Laurel McKenzie, and I would like to nominate Marcia Gustafson-Beltate to be our leader for this next school year.
All right, so Laurel nominates. Are there any other nominations?
You got all the information to join?
That's our school board rep who just joined us, by the way.
Oh, great.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Rep should be joining us in a second too, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yep.
All right, so we have a nomination for Marcia as school board chair for 2020 and 2021. Do we have a second on that?
This is John. I'll second that.
Okay. And let's have a vote, again, a roll call vote on that. Marcia, do you accept that?
I do.
Okay, so we have one, there we go. Alicia?
Alicia?
Alicia, sorry.
I was confused for a
fault.
moment. Yes,
Yeah.
aye.
Aye, okay, and Heidi?
Aye.
Laurel?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Charlie?
Aye.
Patty?
Aye.
Okay, and so our new board chair
Congratulations.
is
Yay.
Marcia, and Marcia gets as a prize, gets to take the board meeting from here.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks. So just to help with facilitation, because we're doing this remotely and we kind of see each other, but not, we'll just continue. If there's something for discussion, I'll just go down the list of everyone's names so that everyone has that opportunity to speak, and we'll know, who's speaking, rather than trying to talk and maybe miss a visual cue or not have a visual cue that someone wants to talk, if that works for everyone. Alicia, does that work?
Oh yeah, that works for me.
Heidi, no, I'm not going to go down all the list now. All right. Okay, so up next on our agenda, we have.
We got to nominate a vice chair.
Oh, I got to nominate a vice chair. I see everyone's like ducking. What's going on?
So I would like to, this is Laurel speaking, I would like to ask Charlie Eicher if he would consider continuing as our vice chair.
Doesn't anyone else have a passion? I will accept it graciously.
All right.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
So now we have the nomination. We do a second of that.
I'll second.
All right. So Heidi second that. And then any discussion on that? Probably not. So I'll just go down the list. Alicia,
Aye.
Charlie, you're good with this?
Yeah.
Thanks. Heidi,
Aye.
John,
Well, I,
Laurel,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
and I, Marcia, say aye too. So it goes forward 7-0-0.
Terrific.
thanks, Charlie.
All right. So
Quick note, this is Nick again. We do have our second school board rep has joined, so we have both school board reps, and Carrie Broderick has also joined via telephone.
Okay.
Great.
All right, so next up then we have the public comments. So I don't know if Nick, at this point, you have gotten anything?
I do not currently see any sort of messages through chat. I do not have any hands raised. We do have a few additional people that have joined us since. So again, just to let you know, members of the public currently are muted, but if you would like to be unmuted so that you can make a public comment, you can do so by reaching out to me via chat, or there's a feature under the participants tab in which you can raise your hand and then I can acknowledge you so that you can make a public comment.
All right, so let's just kind of pause for 10, 15 seconds to give someone a chance to figure out that.
Mhm.
Anything?
We have nothing as of yet.
Okay, then why don't we continue, and then at the end, when we have public comments session 2, we can address that then.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so are there any changes to the agenda?
I need the minutes to be pulled. Should we do that now or later?
That's for the consent agenda. Just in general, are there changes?
Okay, I'll wait then.
Overall? No? Okay. Superintendent's report.
Okay. So for this report, I put together a few slides to just provide the public with some of the results from the surveys that were taken with parents and students with regard to the beginnings of remote learning. So there is still more work to be done with portions of these surveys, but this will give a good understanding of where the majority of the individuals were thinking or leaning. It's good to start off with a few numbers that there are 407 parents, that filled out this survey. And so that was a large one for us. We haven't had one that big before. We also had about 576 students as well take their survey, roughly half of most grade levels. I will say, and you'll see it in these slides as well, that 11th and 12th grade probably wasn't as represented as 3rd grade all the way through 10th grade, where they were pretty balanced of about 50% of the classes. So we'll start off by just focusing on a few overarching themes from both parents and students. We'll talk about what parents felt has been successful so far within the first couple of weeks, including the implementation of remote learning here in Jaffrey and Rindge. And then also we'll kind of compare that or share what the students say on that same type of question. And then we'll talk about the themes of the challenges that exist, and then for both parents and the students. And then we'll go through a few graphs, maybe about, actually several graphs, just to talk about how parents perceive the student engagement, how students perceived engagement, the time that people are spending on remote learning. throughout each day, and both from parents and students. So it's a bit of an interesting set of data. This data will be shared with everyone. I've been communicating on a fairly regular basis, trying not to inundate people with emails, because I know that the schools have been sending emails as well. So that when there's any kind of meaningful information, like this last Friday, there was some new information about the RING food program being upgraded. I thought that was important for people to know, so that they could be able to act upon that as on Monday, which would have been today. And then also in that email, I also said that I'll be sharing out this information. So we'll make this public for everyone. Certainly it'll be public on our website, but I'll push it out as well. I've also, in this, I'll interject that there are some emails that I've received that were kind of post this survey that said, I really wish I would have said something, like, you know, and I'll talk about that. So if we can go to the first slide, Nick, that would be great. So basically what has been successful, there were 3 overarching categories, and by a long shot, really, teachers' accessibility and support was number 1. And when I say teacher, I meant adults, so teacher and the instructional associate, different grade levels, or parents of different, you know, of younger students especially, indicated that the associates were there to be able to connect with their kids if they needed support, to ask questions. And so the accessibility, different times of the day, you know, all the way through the day, sometimes in the evening as well, is what some of the comments stated. Also, things that were successful that made it doable right off the bat was clear expectations. Those teachers and those classrooms, those Google Classrooms, or if it was not done digitally, it was done by paper or something like that, there were clear expectations. The directions were clear. The schedule, there was a lot of happiness, I guess you could say, about having a set schedule. In conversations from around the area, there are some places that perhaps didn't have schedules, and I think that they're now tending to go more toward a schedule approach, as that has been shared throughout the state, as the schools that have been using those, some sort of a schedule, have had we've had people who have had less anxiety around this process. And then balance of materials. You would think that, yes, technology, it's great that we're able to put all of these classes online, but we'll see that that's also a struggle, and in a fairly large way. But regardless of whether people have good Wi-Fi or not, people were, anyone who had a multiplicity of materials, paper copies, backup perhaps, paper copy backups of the online courses, or they were asked to go out and do things experientially outside. Parents were very pleased when it was kind of multi-dimensional like that. If we go to the student survey and what has been successful, again, overwhelming, about 50% of them said, hey, it's great to wake up a little bit later and get started. And so where we typically start around, what, 7:25, around that time for the middle school, high school students, you know, this wouldn't be true for the elementary. Maybe that's why it was about half. Was that they get to wake up later. This is about an hour, a little bit more later than they usually would. So they get up. Autonomy was a big one. You had to pull from a lot of different areas to kind of come up with that category. But basically, students saying, I really like that I can, if I'm hungry, I get up, I get a snack. I use the restroom, and I go back to my computer or my paperwork that I'm doing and work on it. They feel, and this is a theme for certain, that there are a lot of people that they can ask for help. So they have their parents, mentioned, although that was in the parent survey, but they have teachers, they have the teacher assistant. They talked about being able to ask and feeling very comfortable about asking other students. I think partly because they feel they're all in the same state. So, you know, they feel very comfortable interacting with one another for the purpose of getting answers or clarification. Online peer interactions. And so we're talking about not academics at all, just the need to be able to connect with another person and to be able to do that at any time. So that's been positive for the students. If I were to go to the parent survey for the biggest challenges, it really came down to environment. This has been very difficult for everyone in one way or another, and certainly for families going from a routine, a different routine where your kids were at school and you were at work, and then suddenly even the parents are home at work, trying to do their job, trying to make sure that their students are doing what they're supposed to be doing. If a lot of our families, really our average, we have about 3 to 4 kids per 3 kids per family. So we have larger ones, we have some smaller ones, but we have quite a few kids per family in our district. And so you can have the best Wi-Fi in the world. If your parents are on the Wi-Fi and the kids are all doing Wi-Fi as well at the exact same time, bandwidth is a problem. And so that also can create conflict, and environment can be difficult. Lack of socialization with peers, they don't have that. Technology reliability was the number 2 biggest challenge from the parents' perspective. And that has a little bit of what I was just talking about. Even with the most reliable of internet, if you have multiple users at the exact same time trying to either download or view some sort of video, it's just a lot of bandwidth that's being used. Focus was the number 3. They felt that kids there was a fair amount of talk about stress that was leading to lack of focus. Anxiousness, not really, for younger students especially, not really understanding what this is all about, why they can't see their friends, why they're even home. So that was not as much for older students, but still the stress, I think, factor was for the older students more. Distractions, if you have your brothers and sisters at home, there are different types of distractions. And then I think learning how to do school differently. So yeah, teachers were thrown into this, parents were thrown into this, kids were thrown into this too. And though they're all digital natives, it doesn't mean that they all have the skill set to be able to go right into this environment right away. And certainly, as we'll see with the biggest challenges from the students, why that would be the case. And so I put a little asterisk down here on the bottom is because, with even what we're doing right now with Zoom and what's been in the news, and anytime we're dealing with so much any digital platform, even though there's a lot of good to these, there's the fear of, what can happen. And so I think that a lot of parents, several anyway, are very nervous about that. We certainly are. We check in with our tech all the time, trying to find out anything that's trending, that's a problem. How can we fix this? How can we resolve this? And make sure that we're not having the problems that other people have had. And so that will just be a continuous effort no matter what we do for here on out, whether we're in school or online schooling. So the student survey with biggest challenges, also technology difficulties, similar sort of thing. They get really frustrated when they're dropped or kicked off due to the bandwidth. The learning curve, slow internet in some areas. Clarity. So whereas one of the strengths with the parents early on was that they indicated that there was really strong communication, that they really appreciated when there was structure. The students are saying that there's confusion with expectations of assignments. Also, instructions can be difficult to understand when you're not face-to-face. I think when we consider, I didn't really think about this until earlier today, that phrase, when you're not face-to-face, when 70% of the information you're getting usually is from people's body language and you're not getting that, there's a lot of comprehension that's impaired, really. So you're going to have to read a lot more. You're going to have to listen to people's inflection. And then again, you have to keep on asking your friends and asking your teachers what is meant by this. Because everyone wants to do a good job. People do their best and want to succeed if they can. So they're going to find out what it takes in order to be successful. and overwhelmed with expectations. And so what I was saying before about the fact that this is all kind of new, difficulty prioritizing and organizing. So if a student has difficulty, if you go to a student's locker and it's a mess, it might be an indication that they have some difficulty organizing at home as well, and with this type of learning environment. And this type of learning environment actually, though there are some great tools for organizing, you have to be even more organized in some ways. So that can be tough. If we go through these next ones, I'll go through a little bit faster, is just, and people can go online and kind of view these. What I will say is that these graphs, I had someone working on them. And so because in our original survey, we allowed people to add extra comments, we had to create in some graphs some different pieces of the pie, and others don't have those pieces, depending on whether anyone said anything or not. And so the color schemes, you have to be very careful and look at the colors here, because they don't necessarily match up with one another. The categories do, but you'll see by and large that if we go through all the elementary levels, that you're really getting some very high percentage of engagement from what the parents are reporting. And so we can skip on to the next one. Same thing there. Just that parents were feeling that whatever their definition of engagement was, we didn't define engagement. They felt that by and large, there was some heavy engagement, usually 70+%, 80% engagement, high engagement or engaged. If we go to the next slide, Nick. This is just an interesting graph, average student time kind of spent in a class by residency. So whether you're in Jaffrey or in Rindge, you can see that it kind of ebbs and flows from grade to grade. I mean, it's pretty consistent across the board. It changes a little bit in 11th and 12th, but also I put in there that low survey participation could have hindered those results there. But still, even with the lower averages there, it's around 2 to 3 hours for those individuals at that level. The next slide. This is just a different way of looking at it. This does make an assumption. By reading the comments and by just because you can't do averages with just the more than 3 hours, that's, you know, we used a number, we used 5. Some parents were in their comments were saying their kids were working for 7, 8, 9 hours a day. Others were saying that they were working 6. Others were around the 3, the 4 mark. So we made 5 be that average. And you can see, again, the 11th grade, 12th grade might be a little bit off, but the rest of them, everyone's hovering around that 3.5 hour a day average time frame, which is consistent with what anecdotally we are hearing from parents, emails, teachers. We could continue on with the next slide. Yep. And then, so these next slides is just from JGS, RMS, the middle school, the high school. Again, making sure that you're careful with the colors, because the colors don't necessarily match up. Just making sure you're looking at the legends on both of those. I put a little bit of summary on the bottom just because of those color shifts. That at Jaffrey Grade School, parents are saying this is what we're doing 2+ hours a day. That's when my students doing 2+ hours of work. 88% of the parents are reporting that. 89% of the students are saying the exact same thing. So the parents and the students there, even though they're not taking the survey together, are saying the exact same thing, which is nice for reliability purposes. If we go to RMS, something similar, 91% and 89%, again, 2 or more hours, most in the category of 3 hours or more. Middle school, 90 and 85. We get a little more diversion as we go up through middle school and then high school. So high school, you'll see again, and some of those numbers were on the next one. If you can scroll that up, yep, that would be great. You see 92 and 79, so about 90% and 80% consistency there with one another. And so that ends this presentation. I think overall, what I get out of those last two slides is that when I see that the students are giving an answer and the parents are giving a similar answer, it tells me a couple things. One, that everyone's probably paying attention to this. Secondly, I think through a lot of comments, though, I think that there are some parents in particular who are stressed out because this is not what they signed up for. You know, parenting and parenting, teaching as a parent is not an easy thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. But there are some other parents who have said that this has been such a joy to act like they feel like they know the content and the expectations perhaps for the first time. And so we as a school need to be considering those types of comments and saying, what can we learn from this and how can we replicate whatever it is that those parents are experiencing when the students are back in the classroom. So that's the report I have right now. Everything is continuously changing. I'm still, we're still working with shifts in with helping teachers as well. They've had a survey. It's a little more complicated than this one. In this survey, parents talked about, and I didn't put it in this slide because it didn't really have to do with the theme of what we were talking about, but parents did say about 57% of people I asked the question about April break, 57% of those responding, of those 407 responding, indicated that they would think it would be a good idea to go and teach through and do remote learning through April break. 14% said about, I don't know about the whole time. I think people need a break, but maybe a couple long weekends or one longer weekend during that time frame, kind of knock off some of those snow days. And then there was a good 20 to 25% that really were pretty strong against not taking the break. So they want the break to remain as it is. And so I'm in the process of still collecting more information, more in the realm of the teachers and finding out where they're at with this. It is definitely a huge learning curve for them, and they have put a lot into it. So we're trying to weigh everything as we go forward. And if we need to make a change, right now, it remains, right now, it's just the calendar remains the calendar. But if we have some changes, we have a good amount of data that says we should make that change, we'll probably have to call a board meeting for that purpose at a later date.
Okay. Thanks, Ruben. I just want to go down and see if any board members have any comments or questions. So, Alicia?
I don't really have a comment. I think it's fascinating that the percentages between the parents and the students were so similar. I think that's really good reliability wise.
Yep. Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, I'm concerned about the teachers, and I can't wait to get the survey data back from them. Because for one thing, I think that the elementary students and the number of hours that they're reporting is similar to high school students. And I'm not sure that that can continue.
Right. All right.
So I can say, because I've already relayed it out to the teachers, this specific information, so it wouldn't be sharing this information before they have it about themselves, is that indeed in reading the parent comments, some of them, along with reading some of the teacher comments, and everything was positive with what I'm about to say. The comments were positive, but you have to read between the lines. And so I sent an email to staff last Friday to remind them they need to create a schedule, make sure that they give themselves some time for planning and some downtime, and to be able to take care of themselves. Because I did read between the lines a lot, actually, to see that, yes, while people might be happy that they're accessible, and most of the time that is the case, maybe they've been too accessible at times, evenings. I realize also that this is all brand new. We haven't done anything like this before. And so when you start off with something new like this, it often does take a lot more to make sure that you're feeling successful and to make sure your kids are feeling successful. And so certainly we need to find out what that new normal is for the time period that we're going to be doing this. It's a good point, Charlie. It's a good catch on that one.
Heidi?
Yeah, I'm just, thank you for doing these surveys. I think it's so important. I think, you know, as we've said, this is all so new and people need to be able to give that feedback. And so thank you for doing that for all the stakeholders. And I think moving forward, we just need to keep those lines of communication open.
Thanks. John?
Well, thank you for the report, Ruben, first of all. And I think all of us are proud of our school district and especially our teachers and the administrators who have supported them for launching into this way. And it is really good to hear from you, Ruben, and Charlie. Thank you for bringing it up. The idea that we need to be taking care of our teachers, making sure that they're, that we're sensitive to the stresses of doing something new. But it feels good to be doing this and to see how well our staff is doing it.
Thank you. Laurel?
I echo what Charlie and John say.
Patty?
I'm just amazed. The time and the up ramp of the technology. I think everyone's done really, really well. I know there are some spots for work, but I think overall it's gone really, really well, and I applaud the creativity of our teachers to connect with students. Many have done a lot to engage them in new and dynamic ways, and it's really impressive.
Thanks. I'll also just echo, we need to make sure that our teachers are taking care of themselves, and as well as all their students. Teachers have the tendency to take care of everyone else and often forget themselves. So they need to do that. Otherwise, they won't be there when we need them. So, okay. Thanks very much. Student rep, it's your turn.
Are Antonio and Patrick still on?
Patrick and sorry, they're there, but they're muted.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Patrick.
So we don't really have much of a report. We don't have a fancy presentation, but we've had pretty limited of which students we get to see and which students I get to talk to on a regular basis. But based off what I've got some positive things. I've seen the side of being too sick to join a class, but they were able to get the work that they missed and were able to get through it. And it was nice to be able to email all my teachers today and asking them for what I missed. So yeah, it's been pretty good so far.
All right. And I hope you're feeling better.
Yes.
Good.
Antonio also had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to put in, maybe this was me in particular, but I must have missed the notification for the survey. I didn't fill it out, but I know I would have. I know I check my school email almost 4 to 10 times a day, at least, because I am doing school on my computer. So it would have been nice to have received like an email, like asking like to do the survey. I know I'm seeing it now. It was posted in my advisory stream. So that is where I guess I missed it. So it would have been nice to like have received like an email as well, like kind of like a reminder.
Okay.
Well, that's fair, because from the parent, like I had 300 the night before I closed off the parent email. I sent an email to the parents saying, reminding them of it, and I had almost 100 more surveys, 8 hours later. So I think to your point, you're right, Antonio, that would have been good. We haven't had a whole lot of luck with surveys, with emails, and students checking emails. That's why we went through the advisors, figuring that would be pushed out that way for the older students. And but that's good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Anything else?
Nothing that I can think of.
Okay, and I'll just quickly, Alicia, any questions for the students?
No.
No. Okay, Charlie?
No.
Heidi?
I guess, do either of you have a preference for doing this remote learning or actually being at school? I'm just curious.
I'm too used to being at school. I definitely would rather be back at school right now, but I understand why we're not. So
Okay. Antonio?
I've been homeschooled for like 7 years before I went to high school. So this, for me in particular, isn't very difficult. I'm very used to this kind of remote learning where like it's very kind of student independent, where like you're expected to do your work like, and you have to manage your schedule and workload like on your own, because generally in classrooms it's pretty laid out. Like you do the work in class, and like typically speaking, like if it gets done in class, you don't have to like do the homework, and like sometimes it ends up where you have to do homework. But I can see where like other people will have struggles like trying to find out how they want to prioritize everything, and it can be overwhelming.
All right. Well,
So me personally, I have no opinion. I think it would be best if we were back at school, but again, modern times have not really allowed us to have that opportunity.
All right, John?
No questions, but thank you guys for weighing in. And I hope you make it back to school before the end of the year. I guess that's uncertain at this point.
Laurel?
I do have a question. I wondered if you agree that the average hours of learning a day that you're experiencing is around 3 hours, which is I think what the survey is telling us.
I'd like to say that my average hours of learning is 7 because my mother is sitting right next to me. But I would agree that 3 hours is about pretty accurate for me.
Thank you.
For me, just because I have a slightly lighter course load, it's probably closer to like 2.5.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a little validation of the survey. Thank you.
And Patty?
She's muted herself, so
Oh.
just give her a sec to come back on.
Sorry, I have no questions.
Okay, all right. And I don't either. So again, thanks very much for the student perspective. Okay, so next up is the consent agenda. Are there any additions, subtractions, changes?
I would like to make an addition to the consent agenda. A resignation, Meredith James Carroll, Conant High School English teacher, effective June 30, 2020.
Okay. Anything else?
I need to pull the minutes, both public and non-public, for March 16th.
Anything else?
I think, don't most of the meeting minutes have to be done separately? I don't think we had a full board for many of them.
Let's check real quick here.
Bless you.
All right, so it looks like the 26th, everyone was there. Or not the 26th, sorry, the 11th.
I guess, you know what, I'm not, on the 16th, I had called in, but I'm not counted in the roll call, so are those the ones you pulled anyway, Alicia, the 16th?
16.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess although at the
The six-
bottom, I'm listed, so
Yeah, the 16th, I had listed you because you did participate via
yeah.
phone call, and you did tell me it wasn't as efficient a process. If people want to have Heidi removed, I'm more than happy to, but
I guess the same would apply for me on the 23rd because I participated remotely as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. We're not shown. I apologize. I see that the full board wasn't present when we went into non-public, but
Yeah.
members joined after the fact. Excuse me.
Right. So on the 16th,
We need to pull it.
we need to pull that one still because Alicia, you were not present physically or telecommunication, right?
Remotely.
Okay.
Yep.
But the others were good?
I guess I can vote on, I just wasn't there when you went into non-public on the 16th, but then I voted to adjourn, so I guess I
You can vote.
was present. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would move that we approve the consent agenda as amended with the exception of the both non-public and public meeting minutes for March 16th.
And a second?
I need to make an amendment to that. We also need to pull the minutes for March 11th, both public and non-public.
Okay, so we have a motion. I move we approve the consent agenda as amended with the addition, with the exception of the meeting minutes for March 11th and March 16th, both public and non-public.
All right.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
Can I get a second for that?
Second, John.
John? Okay. So now we're looking at the consent agenda. Laurel made the motion, John second. Do a roll call vote. So Alicia,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Laurel,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Okay. So we'll now go to the March 11th, both public and non-public. I need a motion for that.
I move we
Oh.
approve, this is Laurel. I move that we approve the meeting minutes for March 11th, both public and non-public as presented.
This is Alicia, and I'll second that movement.
All right. Roll call vote. Alicia,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
John,
Danny?
abstain, thank you. Laurel,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
and myself, aye. So the 11th passes 601. And I forgot to do the first one, which is the count, which was 700. So, all right, so then March 16th.
I move this is Laurel. I move we approve the meeting minutes as presented for March 16th, both public and non-public.
Thank you, Laurel. Second?
Second.
Patty?
Mhm.
Okay. Roll call vote. Alicia?
Abstain.
Thank you. Charlie?
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Laurel?
Aye.
Patty?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Okay, and it passes 601. Thank you. And moving on. So the school district calendar discussion. So I don't know if someone wants to speak to this.
Sure, I'll speak to that.
Okay.
So every year we make a calendar that is at least in line with, as much as possible, the districts that we cooperate with for the ATC programming, the Career Center over at Conval. For the most part, we have part of it, and Messinic does as well. And so this year, I would say that this calendar right here is very close to Conval's calendar. It's within 1 or 2 days. We have some policies that cause us to have to not hold school, or we have a policy that causes us not to hold school on voting days, and we happen to be in a very, we have 3 official voting days this year. And so 2 in the fall and 1 in the spring. So we have that as a slight added complication, if you want to call it that way, or an opportunity. But we would be, this right here, just like Conval, and I believe the Scenic as well, but Conval for certain would start as a first day would be September 1st. We'd have, very similar to what we had this year, a professional development structure ahead of time. We have 2 new teacher workshop days on a Monday and a Tuesday, followed by 4 other days right after that, one of which is an unencumbered day for teachers to work solely in their classrooms. That type of day is also at the end of this calendar as well, after the last student day. So then there are 7 professional development days that go on during the calendar year. And those are marked by numbers, well, the days, the numbers of the days there in parentheses. For instance, if you could see pretty clearly March 2021, which is the 8th and the 9th, similar to what we had this year, last year. Because the 9th is a voting day, we take that as a professional development day because kids won't be there. The day before that, we take as well, so it gives the students a longer weekend, but it also gives us some time to be able to focus on something. For instance, this year we were able to focus on a topic of mental health and student support, behavioral support, things of that nature. So Cassie Gackley, for instance, was our guest speaker for the first day, and we talked about trauma-informed instruction and what goes on with the brain and that's experienced trauma, and what our role is with that, and how we should be taking care of ourselves. So I would say the only difference from this calendar here in front of you to this year's calendar would be the September dates. And so we had a choice, September and November. So when we start September 1st, we see that the 7th is Labor Day, and so that's off. And the 8th is a voting day, so we can't have students during that day. So we could have a professional development day on that day, or we can have it off. And so if we had a professional development day on September 8th, that's very close to all the other professional development days that we just had. It isn't necessarily as advantageous as you would want for a time period. So if we go to November, again, on that Tuesday, we have a voting day. And so figuring that we can't have, it's around the time frame that you would have parent-teacher conferences for elementary schools, but getting parents to come during the voting time and with all the parking lot issues and so forth we have, that day really needs to be on the second. So we'll take the second and the third as the professional development days and give our teachers and our students a 4-day weekend in September is at the beginning of the year is what we think would be the best. I think people would appreciate that. We usually have a staggered start to the year. This year, Labor Day falls at a weird time, comparatively speaking to other years. And so we don't have that typical 2, 3, 4 day start or 3, 4, and 5 start. This would give us still a couple of shorter weeks and then going into the normal after that. Certainly I recommend, we have time to accept this. We don't have to accept this tonight. We can accept it and change it based upon input that we might get, or we can wait and put it on the next board agenda for approval. Whatever this board wants, we just want to make sure we had something there. This reflects 177 days, teaching days with students, and 9 other days, 7 professional development and 2 unencumbered, for a total of 186.
All right. So I guess, does anyone have any questions or comments on this? And I'll just go down.
There's one more thing. There's one more thing to talk about, but that in general.
Well, my question is what input, I'm assuming that teachers have had their input on this?
Well, every year at a certain time, we talk to the leadership of the association. So there wasn't as much input this year from the standpoint of needing the change. I think that this year's schedule was good, and we do have an agreement with Conval that and with Messinic, so we do have to play in the sandbox with them. Our students share, the calendar year with each other. So there are some limitations.
Okay. All right. So,
oh, go ahead, Marcia.
nope, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just curious about the early release days. They're all elementary only purposes.
Yeah, so that was the other thing.
Data.
This is new to the calendar, which is why I think, it would be good to, let this sit here and maybe have some comments on it. We talked about it last time in the discussion that we had, we've done a really good job with providing some regular time for our middle school and high school teachers to collaborate on assessment, on data. And so we've made a lot of headway, and we're only going to continue to improve in that way there. We have not, and it is more difficult to create elementary schedules that allow for that same experience. So wanting to provide teachers with several hours of, a couple hours of dedicated time to work on data or to, work on how to adjust curriculum based upon the data that they have, that they get 3 times a year. This is why we're talking 3 times. It's the dates that the principals felt would be around the time of certain assessments, that we could have those half days for elementary students, and that we could give that professional PLC, professional learning community time, that we do have more of in the middle school and high school to those elementary teachers in those areas. Realizing, again, it's not every day or every week, but it is a start.
So what would the timing of that be? When would the buses go to Ringe and Jaffrey Grade School to pick up students?
It would be around noon.
So would we serve lunch?
We need to serve lunch.
In order for it to be counted, right, as a school day, a full day.
Yeah, we need to, unless if it's an emergency situation, we need to have lunch. Yeah.
So that's what, 3 hours of time you're providing each day?
Yeah, about 2.5 to 3 hours. Yep, because we do also have to, teachers need to have their half-hour lunch time that they have, or that 20, whatever the time is that they have, that is equal to the students.
Is that enough days?
Well, I mean, listen, I think that it would be great to have it every single month, but I think that it would be, I think that starting small would be a better idea than jumping all in that way. Make sure that we utilize these days the best we possibly can and get some feedback from the teachers, from parents about this. I mean, we do know that we're going to need to work with some organizations and maybe, our activities director and so forth to be able to see what we can do to offer some supports for parents during those days. It's not easy to let your elementary students out and keep your high school students in. You tend not to have anyone to watch the students. So at times, and with some families, not all.
So this is Laurel again. I'm sorry, which days are the parent-teacher conferences?
Well, currently it would be scheduled over in November. That's when that happens. We have the second and the third. The third is a voting day, and so we were thinking professional development for certain on the third, maybe professional development for some of the schools, both on the second and the third. But if we keep the same process that we've had, but I think from talking to the principals at the elementary school, that out of those 2 days, the second or the Monday there, if we were going to have a day, would have to be the day for the parent-teacher conferences, because on that Tuesday, the parking lots at Ringe Memorial School are going to be pretty packed due to voting.
So I understand that the district practice has been to use a professional development day for parent-teacher conferences.
Mm-hmm.
But I get the sense that every professional development day is really pretty precious.
Oh, I think so. I think we've utilized them well.
So should we have an additional non-student day that achieves the conferences, so that there actually are, instead of a parent-teacher conference, it is used for professional development?
So, well, I mean, we can discuss that it's not a bad idea. We can discuss that with the association. The language in the JREA anyway talks about 177. That number is specific. So if we went to, let's say, a 176, we'd be fine hours wise, because we go by hours. That's not an issue. I think you can almost go down to 165 almost and qualify for the bare minimum. But we would have to have conversations about that.
I thought we changed that language a little bit with JREA to give a total number of contract days with a blend of student and professional development.
Yeah, the language is changed, and so yes, you're absolutely correct. It still states that I mean, there needs to be a matter of, and there should be some discussion. Is my point. It's perhaps an easier discussion to have because of the language change that was in there, but nonetheless it is a change in practice, and it does still say, I can't remember the exact language, but generally speaking, for 177, generally speaking, for the purpose of instruction, it allows for flexibility for professional development. You're correct.
But just another opportunity for the cybersecurity training, the mental health training, all the training we talk about.
Safety training, yeah, all of that.
Okay.
There's definitely, I'm assuming just because Labor Day is so late, this really shifts. The start seems later, and certainly getting out a bit later than typical. But you said Conval and Messinic, same.
I haven't seen Messinec's final calendar. I don't know if they've made their final calendar yet, but certainly we would have collaborated with one another, and so that is Conval's first day.
All right.
They've approved their calendar already.
Charlie or Patty, do you have any comments?
No, I think it's really hard to get this perfect.
Yeah.
This is Laurel. I have one more question. What are we voting on in September?
The state primary. You're wondering.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, that.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Carrie. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure if you could, I wasn't sure if I was muted or not. So I just had a question on the district-wide holidays. So I'm looking at the calendar and there's 12 for year-round staff, and July 4th falls on a Saturday, and that's marked off as a district holiday on that Saturday. And typically when it falls on Saturday, the Friday before is what's right. So
Right.
I guess I'm just asking about that one.
Yeah, so that would be a mistake on my part.
Okay, so it should be that Friday?
I tried to get away with it, Carrie. I wanted to make sure that we take one day away.
And then there's, you know, when you look at December, it looks like we don't get Christmas off, just the teachers and students do, but we get the day before Christmas Eve off. So
What?
I'm
Yeah,
thinking those are
Jesus,
marked,
stop.
maybe marked wrong.
Yes,
And
I
then-
think you're right.
Hi, Carrie.
So we'll have to.
And the
So the good news, is, yeah, we'll have to go back and
Perfect
fix it.
process is awesome.
The following week we have an extra day, so that's, you know, a bonus.
Yeah, I don't think that we were when we were making this, we were making it in with the teachers and the students and the paraprofessionals and so forth in mind. I didn't think about
Okay.
the SOU at all.
Oh, sure. See, we always
Thanks.
fall last. All right. No, I just wanted to double check and make sure before you voted on it that, you know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's good. That's a good
we
catch.
at least looked at those. Okay.
So just kind of based on the conversation that I'm hearing tonight, this is, we've had a look at it, but maybe it's, needs a little more time to be thought about and vote. Maybe next time on that.
That sounds right.
Sure.
Okay.
Now, one question. This is Nick. Just for the whole public engagement piece, I do have two questions in chat. Do we want to address those now, or would we like to hold those off until public comments round 2? They were relative to the calendar.
Well, if we were being rigid, we would hold off, but it kind of seems maybe relevant right now. So let's do it.
So would you like me to read them aloud, or how would you like to handle that?
Yeah, why don't you start with the first one?
Okay. So the first question that we have, do you want names or just questions?
Names and
Names.
town.
All right, so we have Aaron Chamberlain from Jaffrey. The question is, why couldn't we start sooner in August so that we could get out earlier in June? Graduation would be on the 18th. And then the second question, or I guess we'll deal with that one first.
Yeah, again, it really has to do with just being connected with the other schools, making sure that we're starting and ending at similar timeframes, so that our students who travel over there are, for the most part, matching day to day. It doesn't ever work out entirely that way. I suppose one way to do that is to put professional development days at the very end of the year. It's not as helpful for us to do that when we have a lot to accomplish in the beginning of the year, especially this year. Our PD days are already booked up. We have to have mandatory suicide prevention for every single person in the district and any volunteers and substitutes and so forth. So we have to, that's something that we haven't done in the past. There are a couple other things that we have to do for professional development, and so we have found that we've needed those days up front. And bringing the new teachers back, because they come back 2 days prior to everyone else, backing them into mid-March hasn't been something we've really considered. The conversation about graduation has always, it's been ongoing here with this district. It used to be the week prior to that last Friday. So a week prior to that, that was changed as of, I think, last year. And so this keeps that going. I think that the board can always look and say, hey, we didn't have any snow days or anything like that. We could, make a change if we wanted to in the opposite direction, but that's really the thinking. It's a good question.
Mm. Yep. All
I'm
right.
not thrilled at starting in September, but I think that it's difficult to start more than a day earlier than that.
Yeah.
And the second question is from David Chamberlain, also of Jaffrey. Is there a reason why parent-teacher conferences are not done after school in the late afternoon/early evening? This would allow for parents who work during the day to be available to meet with the teachers.
Contract.
So another great question, something that we have to have more conversations about for certain. I think you make up a very valid point. Not everyone can make it through the day for these events. I think the middle school and the high school have open houses, and sometimes they connect with people at that time frame, but probably not as individuals. So the history has been that the elementary schools in particular have always had it on a specific day. So that's just the precedent that has been in the past, and to shift that requires some agreements and some conversations.
Okay.
Which we will have.
Anything else?
It's good to evaluate, these things. I think, Laurel brought that same, at least half of that statement up about the professional development.
I say also, teachers tend to be pretty flexible. If a parent can't make it, they manage their schedule and find a way to meet with a parent. And we're getting so good with this technology, we might be able to even do it that way. All right. Anything else, Nick?
Those were the two questions that came through via chat. So.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right. Other discussion is EEI, the federal tax deduction.
So EEI is asking, I'll let Carrie talk a little bit more if need be, but basically in a nutshell, EEI has been calling for a bit of time, trying to get a hold of me to ask me to sign a document. And so this document would allow for this tax exempt, this basically, this tax break, I guess you could say, that we're not allowed to have as the type of organization that we are, because they're a for-profit organization. They'd like to be able to utilize this tax break that we can't use for having our energy upgrades. I guess basically because they were the ones who oversaw the work that was done within our district on that.
Okay, so if I can jump in.
Yeah,
Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, so it's part of the Internal Revenue Code, Section 179D, that allows for this energy deduction to be allocated to the designer and installer of the efficient energy equipment if the owner of the property is a governmental entity, which is what we are. So we would be transferring or allocating that deduction to allow EEI to take it instead.
What a racket.
Yeah.
You know how much it's worth, Carrie?
It seemed
I'm sorry,
at
what?
this point. She asked if, do you know how much it's worth?
Well, basically the form just outlines what we paid broken out by school for the upgrades. When I looked at the internal revenue code, it talked about getting partial deductions for certain things and they would have to qualify. So what they would have to do is have this certification performed. And I think this Alliant group that sent this over to us might be it sounds like they're the ones that's going to help EEI get this certification, so we wouldn't be responsible. But there's a lot of information in that internal revenue code, but it looks like they'll be able to get certain percentages depending on how much it qualifies under this code.
This is Laurel. If I remember, when we did this bid, there was an option to have a certification done at the end of the project. We would pay for it. That we opted not to do because it was unclear that it was worthwhile to us.
You're talking about the that it was spread out to do it over as I can't remember the name of what it was called, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. So is that what they're going to be performing now? And if that's the case, will we have the benefit of that report?
Okay, so on the form it says that I'll read you exactly what it says because it doesn't look like the link that's on the website has the form with it. It says, following a third-party certification by a licensed professional engineer or contractor in the jurisdiction of the building, Jaffrey Range Cooperative School District will be provided with a summary analysis detailing the energy-saving improvements and the final Section 179D deduction amount. And then it goes on in the next paragraph to say, I'll just paraphrase, that we are not responsible for the certification, that the taxpayer is. So I can read it word for word if you want me to.
The taxpayer. Well, so it sounds like we will have the benefit of. We will receive the
Of
report.
getting
Of
a
the-
copy of that. Yes, correct.
And we
Of
do
the
not-
certification that they're doing.
And this is all on their dime.
That's what this form says, yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. So any other
So
questions?
basically, okay.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, so we're looking basically for a motion for the board to allow the allocation of this deduction to EEI and for Ruben to
Sign off.
Execute.
the document. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So-
make a motion that, oh, is there any other discussion?
That's
Well, again, Nick, there's a question. I don't know if that's something you want to take on right now or wait till public comment.
Again, that's up to the board. I'm happy to read it out if they so desire.
it's
It's
relative
on
to this.
topic.
It's on topic. Then
Mhm.
well, let's do it.
So again, from David Chamberlain and Jaffrey, are there any outstanding issues or warranty items with the energy project?
Good question.
Yeah, there's no outstanding items. I know we've contacted with them a couple of times about warranty. I don't know if there's anything open right now. I don't believe so. But the project was completed.
Okay. So
That's a good answer.
This is Laurel.
Are we ready to move forward? Thank you, Laurel.
I make a motion that we allocate the federal tax deduction to our contractor EEI and authorize our superintendent Ruben Duncan to execute the agreement with the understanding that we will receive a copy of the certification.
I'd like to second Laurel's
Okay,
motion.
thanks,
This is
Laurel.
Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia. And is there any further discussion? Alicia?
Aye.
Charlie?
No.
Hold on, I'm not doing the vote yet. I'm just checking to see if there's any further discussion. Charlie? Any discussion on this?
Charlie's got nothing.
Okay, Heidi?
No,
Anything? All right, John?
No, I'm okay.
All right, Laurel, anything else
I'm
right
good.
now? Patty?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay, I'm all set too. So now I'll do roll call vote. Alicia,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Heidi,
I.
John,
Aye.
Laurel,
Aye.
Patty,
I
and I say aye. So it passes 7-0-0. And thank you, Ruben, for taking care of that for us. Okay, policy review, second reading. Starting with the ADC prohibited substances.
Bid awards?
Do we want to do the bid
Oh,
award?
gosh, I jumped right over those. I'm so sorry. Yes, let's do bid awards. Okay, the painting bid.
So while it's popping up there, basically reading through this, we went with the lowest bidder there. We've used both of them. They both have done a great job for us. Last year, because we did so much painting, we actually did a little bit of each. But this year, we're asking to award this to Wright Painting of Jaffrey.
All right. Motion?
I make a motion. This is Heidi.
Heidi, thank you.
Make a motion that we award it to Wright Painting.
And a second?
second.
I have a question.
Sure.
Who decides the color palette?
I thought it was us.
Carrie, is that one for you?
I know that the conversation is usually talked with the principals to do that, and it's usually mild colors, I guess, is the best word I can think of to use for that.
We've been asking them to use more neutral colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing drab, but certainly we'll stay away from we'll stay away from the CHS cafeteria that we had.
Okay, thank you.
Idea.
It would also, I think, be nice if we could do some accents here or there that just made things a little more interesting, but that might be a bigger conversation.
So perhaps if we go through an RFP for an architect, we would ask for a palette too.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion. Any other discussion? Alicia, any other comments? Charlie? Heidi? John? Laurel?
Nope.
Patty?
Nope.
I don't have any either. Okay, so let's now do roll call vote. Alicia?
Aye.
Charlie?
Aye.
Heidi?
I.
John?
Aye.
Laurel?
Aye.
Patty?
I
And I'm aye. Okay, so that passes 7-0-0.
Okay, so the next one is having to do with the HVAC and plumbing services. This is for I'll speak a little bit. Carrie, if you have anything to add, or if anyone from the facilities committee would like to add, go ahead and do so. But in general, this is just trying to line up a company that is going to provide us with some numbers here of how they're going to respond with an emergency, or just the day-to-day work that we might need to contract with for this organization. And over a 2-year period of time. is what we're looking for. This does not certainly enter into agreement. We would have to write the contract and agree to that. But with the 3 companies that bid, we would like to award it based upon, you can look at these matrices, but the second of the 3 that are in here, which is right there, KPMB Enterprises, LLC.
All right. So do we have a motion?
Is that right?
I have a question.
Did you hear Charlie?
Charlie has a question, I hear.
Charlie is a question?
Yes, the KPMB and the NPI both have 21, 22.
Both have.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
what?
I noticed that too, Charlie, actually, when I'm looking at it right now. So basically, I think there's just some typos for KPMB and for the other NPI. The years
years
state
are labeled the
2021, 22 for both years, and it should be 2020 to 2021 for the first year. And then under Plum Busters is a typo for the material markup for the 2 columns. It says 300%, and it should be 30% on the second year.
Oh, right. I see it on the HVAC. And
Yep, and then the HVAC, and then the plumbing and HVAC. The markup should be 30% on those, not 300.
Right.
Good.
And just, I don't know if you'll end up, if you're going to be fixing some typos on this, at the very top, the subject says all district painting contracts. So that needs to be changed.
Oh no.
Not painting.
Yep. Right. It's HVAC and plumbing.
Yeah.
So this is Laurel. So the last sheet, which says bid specifications and contract terms, this is what we talked about a bit today in the facilities committee meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So,
So this was part of the RFP.
okay. So,
So Dave pulled in that language from the RFP.
okay. So one of the things that, in terms of entering into a contract with this subcontractor, is coming to an agreement on charging for travel time for emergency services. Right, addressing portal to portal in the contract.
Right. Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, that was going to be, we talked about that, and I was going to put that in the contract. Correct. That it was to meet the 1 hour time frame for the emergency, to be on site.
Okay, very good. May I make a motion?
Please.
I move that we award, I'm not going to get the initials right, KPMB,
Yes.
our plumbing and HVAC maintenance work for fiscal years 21 and 22, provided that we can come to contractual terms with them and authorize our board chair to execute that contract.
Okay, a second.
Second?
John, thank you.
Yes.
And any further discussion on it? Alicia, anything?
Nope.
Charlie, anything?
Nope.
Heidi, anything? John?
No.
Laurel?
No.
Patty?
No.
I don't have anything else either. So roll call vote. Alicia?
Aye.
Charlie?
Yes.
Heidi?
Aye.
John?
Yep.
Laurel?
Yes.
Patty?
Yep.
And I'm aye. All right, so it passes 7-0-0. Thank you very much. Okay, now policy review. Second reading, ADC prohibited substances.
This one, Nick, is it right that we just made the changes that we
Yeah,
had talked about last time?
in both cases, I just went through the corrections that were stated and just updated.
Right.
So for this one, it's just that references later on, obviously not in the beginning where we have descriptions, but later on, prohibited substances instead of tobacco products.
Tobacco products, right, okay,
This is Laurel.
yes.
Are our legal references up to date? Oh, I guess it looks like they were edited. Forget that question. On this new policy at the top, it will be changed to school board approved today's date?
Yes. So rather than trying to spend all the time to convert things into the policy, I'm just going to keep it as a document until we get all the changes, and then obviously the school board approved date will change.
Okay.
And then
In the format.
yeah, we'll put it in the proper formatting.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, then I guess we need a motion for this.
Do we want to look at the other one first and maybe just do them together?
Ooh.
Just a suggestion. We don't have to do that, but
I think it's a good suggestion.
That's fine with me. Roll call vote once instead of twice, no problem.
that's what I figured.
So the only thing that changed is at the very end.
Yes, the change that was stated was under part number 5, and it was just that last sentence about complaints regarding the superintendent may be directed to school board chair as described in board policy KEB.
Very good.
Right. Okay.
Okay. This is Laurel. I move we accept these two policies as presented. ADC
thank you, Laurel.
and BEDH.
Thanks, Laurel.
This is
Need a
Heidi. I'll second.
Thank you, Heidi. Any further discussion? Okay, great. Roll call vote. Alicia,
Aye.
Charlie,
Yes.
Heidi,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Laurel,
Aye.
Patty,
Aye.
and myself. Aye. All right, thank you. That passes 7-0-0. 2 more policies done. All right, board committee updates.
This is Heidi. I can give an update on the wellness committee. Was originally we had a meeting planned for tomorrow. We postponed it until next Monday. And we have a lot of ideas and we were excited for this upcoming meeting, but I think our circumstances have changed some of the things we'll be able to do. But, you know, we know that we also want to be able to make suggestions to families about their wellness. And so if we can come up with some good creative ideas to share, that will be the focus of the meeting. And I lost my, I actually, on that topic, wanted to ask Ruben. I know that Shayla Parkerson has been offering her Zumba classes, which I think is so wonderful and generous of her. And I hope some of our families are able to take advantage of that. And I'm sure we'll talk about that at the meeting. But Ruben, at some point, if you could just answer, if you know whether there's been participation in that, it would be good to know.
Yeah, I'll have to find out. I'll ask Heather.
Okay, great. She'll be, and you know, she'll be at that meeting, so we can find out from her too. But obviously just, I'm sure as with many other things that are happening in this new style that we are living in, it's just changing what we can do. But we need to come up with some more creative ways to make sure that we're sharing ideas with families for wellness.
Good, thanks. All right, other committees? We had facilities today, maybe John?
Well, the Facilities Committee has been involved in a number of things over the past month, certainly. And I guess sort of trying to oversee the work on the preparations and foundation for the new facilities equipment building that's being built in the parking lot. We were very conscious that this is going to be a very visible building. It's right out on Stratton Road, and so we've been trying to make sure that we work with the neighbors and work with the contractor to come up with plans for siting it and for getting the work area, the foundation and the grading and the lighting all prepared so that our students can get in there and do the building. So that's been a big focus. Obviously, we've been working closely with David Riley, trying to finish up a number of things that are in progress. And the roof repair work that was approved, I think it was only last month, maybe 2 months ago, is going forward. I believe Ringe Memorial School, they were hoping to finish today or tomorrow, and they should be starting soon on the Jaffrey Ridge Middle School. One of the advantages of the COVID-19 epidemic or quarantine. What else? We're obviously looking at things like the plumbing, which we just approved, the plumbing and HVAC work. And I think going forward, one of the things on our agenda is to come up with a plan for the, I guess I'd call it asset management or capital improvements plan for the work that we anticipate being needed over the coming, call it 5 years, to upgrade our mechanical systems. And so we had a survey done there, and we have some next steps to follow up on. And we've also been looking at, I'd say we haven't done too much yet, but looking at what we can do to use the $200,000 that was approved by the voters in March, so that we can get the improvements done on the 2 elementary school parking lots that that we know are needed and that will move us forward.
All right.
Laurel, anything to add?
No, not at this time.
All right. Okay, Education Committee, we haven't had a meeting.
Education Committee and Finance Committee will start to get up and going again now that we are finding some sort of tempo. And so that's what we plan on doing, hopefully toward the end of the month.
All right. And I'm hoping the same as far as policy goes as well, to try and set some sort of remote policy meeting. That'll be fun.
All right.
May I make a request for our next school board meeting on the agenda? Could we have an update of our financials?
Okay.
Are you waiting for me to answer? If you're waiting for me, yes. I can't see anybody, so I don't know.
That would be very nice, Carrie.
All right. I think that's all our committees. Is that correct?
The one note would be, we did put committee organization on the agenda. Just the idea of if anybody wanted to switch committees or if there's any sort of reshuffling that anybody wanted to do. Doesn't have to be addressed now, obviously, but it is an item.
So something to think about if you want to swap out. I know, Heidi, you had said you'd really like to
I'm
take
willing.
off.
I mean, if somebody wants me to, is ready to step away from something, let me know. I'm happy. It worked out for me to do the manifest, but if someone else wants to do that, it's fine. I'm happy. I'd like to stay on wellness, but I can take something else on if someone would like to. So you can think about it and let me know next time.
Okay.
If there's anyone who would enjoy being on facilities committee, I would be happy to swap.
You can't have policy and you can't have goals. I want them.
I know, I'm kind of attached to policy as well, believe it or not.
Policy is fascinating. I hear you. Having
Wait.
done it for 3 years, or 4, forget, a lot.
All right.
Okay, then I guess we're good.
Okay, so we're at public comments now. Nick, are there any more public comments? I mean, we did
Yeah,
some within.
So I do have one more chatted in question. We do only have 2 members of the public left. So if we wanted to, just kind of open up at that, I don't know if we want to give an opportunity to put any more questions in or not, or what kind of we want to do procedurally, but I'm happy to read at least the one question. And
Yeah, let's start with that.
Okay.
And that would give David and Aaron opportunity if they have something they can send in.
So yeah, I guess both of you just use the raise your hand feature if you want to address, but if not, I'll just read the question. So this one's from Aaron Chamberlain. Ruben mentioned this April vacation is still possibly up for discussion. When would that be up for discussion? It seems like it's pretty consistent that students are reporting only 3 hours of school a day. Seems like it would be best to keep this going and keep their momentum going instead of putting a break on after they've just gotten the process of remote learning going.
Mm-hmm. I think those are all thoughts we've all had. We need to see. Ruben's going to do some more and also be talking with the JREA. And I think he also said if need be, we would call another meeting for the board to talk about it before the actual break. So I would say stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Ruben's audio cue is missing, so I don't know if his audio dropped out, so he might not be able to answer that himself.
Yeah, his visual's gone too. So. All right. Any hands raised?
I'm not seeing anything, and I don't see any additional comments at this point.
Okay. Board matters.
Well, I, for one, want to thank Laurel for her service as chair.
Yeah.
And thank her profusely for her time and effort behind the scenes and all that, not just this year, but other years as well.
Thank you, Patty.
Thanks.
You're
Well
welcome.
said.
Now get that garden going. Kidding.
Anything else for board matters?
I move that we adjourn.
Hey, I like that one. And we'll all
Second.
second?
Yeah.
All right. I think technically you don't need a second for an adjournment, but okay. Very good. Then we're adjourned.
We have to roll call? No.
Can we,
Thumbs up.
can we just close by unanimous consent?
Sounds
Yeah.
good to me.
That sounds great. Yeah. Thumbs up, everyone.
Nice to see you all.
Have
Good
a
night,
good
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you.
See
Thank you
Good
for
night.
joining.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Nick, for setting it up.
Bye.
Bye-bye.